like to call the May 13th Transportation Committee meeting to order. I'd like to ask Mr. Randy Cloat to lead us in the invocation, followed by the pledge.
In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this gathering. We appreciate everything, and we ask that we all take a good look at what we're doing. We thank you for this great weather. We thank you in the Lord Jesus Christ, your Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Liz, let it be known everyone's present. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign in with the Secretary. We have no 2/3. Any presentations? Number 5. Any presentations? Mr. Turner.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Transportation Committee, the monthly road report on item number 6. I'd like to very briefly go over that and tell you what we accomplished in the month of April. We installed culverts in several subdivisions and locations, and they are listed there. I can go over them. Melissa Heights for 2 locations, Anna Road, Hilbert Young Road, Anna Road, Ridge Road, Colonial Oaks, and Oakwood Drive. We installed 2 locations there. The total length of the culverts that we installed was 516 feet. We did pothole patching and repair in significant locations listed below on West Worthy Road, Ascension in the districts of 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and 11, Charleston Road, Lewis White Road, Tommy Moore Road, and Cannon Estates. We had sinkholes that we had to repair at 4 locations on Charleston Road, Galvez Oak, 7 Oaks Avenue, and Ryan Avenue. We also crack sealed 2 locations, Bubba Dickens and Tommy King. The sum total for what we did was that we cleaned 5,339 culverts in the month of April. We cleaned 18,620 feet of parish ditches, a little over 3 miles. We mowed over 150 miles of parish roads and over 94 miles of state roads in April. And we did spraying on a little over 120 miles of roads. I'd like to add one thing, if I may. We had previously talked about speed humps, and we were asking for the council to give us locations where we might consider those. We have received about 8 or 9 locations now, and we're in the process of looking at those. If, with your permission, I'd like to set a cutoff time so that we can say this is the limit, and then we'll come back to you with a recommendation of those that we receive and what our recommendation as to locations. And I'd like to recommend that it be at the end of June, which is about another 6 weeks. So 6 more weeks. If you'll send those locations to us, we'll continue to look at them, and then we'll come back to you with a report as to those that we would like to make some recommendations on.
Councilman Kluwak.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we set the deadline for the speed humps inquiries for June 30, 08.
Motion by Councilman Kluwat, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Discussion. Mr. Lowell.
Mr. Turner, is this deadline eternal, or is this just for the year, just for, or what's the time frame on that?
We have sufficient safety funds to do about 10 locations. And so what I wanted to do was to establish those 10 locations and then monitor those for a period of time. As you may recall, we put in 2 speed humps in the Cobblestone subdivision, and we monitored that for quite a bit of time. We did speed and volume studies on them and saw that they were effective. And so we'd like to take that another step without completely opening the door. Let's look at other locations now, maybe as many as 10, and then if those prove to be successful, then maybe we can then move on with a continuous budget item, annual budget item.
Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed.
We in the past had considered and had deferred the request from Councilman Thompson for a 3-way stop sign at Trace Subdivision on Hemingway Drive. We had given you a pretty large packet of information regarding that one, and you had deferred that to a time when Mr. Thompson could come and maybe speak to the issue. We'll check and see if he's here.
What was the findings of?
Well,
Bob?
It's not unusual that locations that are selected by the citizens do not meet national standards, and this one doesn't. However, I do recognize the fact that these are issues for the councilman and the neighborhood, and so as a professional engineer, I really can't deviate from the national standards, and they're not warranted based on national standards. However, I respect the council's right to decide, and continued past practice has been that those locations have been determined by the council and by members of the committee.
Councilman Lamb?
Yeah, Mr. Bob, and in the past, this council or the previous council had to receive a petition from the majority of the residents in that area before we moved on any of that. And I don't know if that's still your policy, or is it still a policy in place, or we're going to change that and just go by your recommendation?
Well, I'm not changing that policy,
Okay.
but at the same token, I think that it's your policy. I guess what I'm really saying is that the only thing that I can go on is national standards for warranting stop signs. And I can almost assure you that very few locations will be warranted under those national standards. In the past, you have chosen to do that by matter of petition. And so I'm not changing that, or I'm basically not taking a position as a professional engineer on that issue.
Okay. Councilman Kluwer?
Yeah, Mr. Bob.
There he is.
Based on the fact that you're saying it doesn't warrant it by the national standards due to the study, is the installation of the 3-way stop, does that cause any unsafe?
In my mind, it does not cause a unsafe condition. What it does do is cause individuals to have to stop for no good reason.
Yes, sir.
I mean, when you pull up to that location, there will not likely be somebody across the minor street. However, the danger occurs when people become accustomed to the fact that there is nobody on the side street when they pull up there, and so they may fail to stop, and they may run the stop sign, and it could cause an accident. That's a dilemma that I think we have in what I call unwarranted stop locations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Thompson, this is the Ascension Trace Subdivision, Hemingway Drive.
Yes, could we pass on that till Mr. Bob and I go out, take a look at that, and make sure it go on your next agenda?
You can make that happen, okay. We'll put this on the next agenda. Ms. Liz, would you make sure that happens?
Mr. Bob pointed out the last meeting about some type of speed bumps and other stuff that they are starting to look at. So I'd like to pass on until we get a chance to go out and just take a closer look at it. The resident requested a three-way stop sign, but we hadn't had time to really go out and look at it. And it's my fault. He's waiting on me. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move into number 8.
Number 8 is a similar situation in that Councilman Chuck Snyder requested a three-way stop in the Pelican Crossing subdivision. This is a location where the subdivision is being extended, and this is the connection between the new subdivision and the old subdivision. And so at that location, he is concerned that there is a need for stop situations. Now, we did not make any studies at this location other than the fact Jackie looked at it, I believe, but we didn't have it. Okay. We did a volume and speed for speed hump analysis, and it did not meet those, but Kent may want to speak to that.
Mr. Shake Snyder?
Yes. What had happened is you had an existing subdivision, that Pelican Crossing, that comes all the way from 44 on back toward the Ormet mounds there, the ponds, and it went about halfway. And then they have a new subdivision that's coming from the other direction that is connected now, and it runs all the way to Highway 22. And so now that road can come all the way from 44 on back and winds through there and then goes all the way to 22. And the people in one subdivision were concerned that it's a long way back there without anybody having to stop through one to the other. And it's a good natural spot for everyone to go ahead and stop at that point between the two subdivisions. We had asked DPW to look at either putting speed bumps or the stop sign there, and they did the study, and they said it just didn't warrant, it didn't fit the criteria for the speed bumps. And so most people concerned, as I went out there and looked at it, considers it to be an ideal place to have a three-way stop. I would not want to put one within the subdivision anywhere else. It's not that point, but it's a good breaking point for that, because it's such a long ways. So that's why we had asked for it and recommended it, just because it's two different subdivisions.
And the residents want it.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Kluwat, to install a three-way stop sign at Pelican Crossing subdivision. Any opposition? Motion passed.
This next item is, we would recommend that this be approved. It's the installation of no parking signs at 17242 Carpenter's Chapel Road. We would recommend that those be installed.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Lohr. Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed.
Item number 10, we have one road that's recommended for acceptance within the parish maintenance system. That's Royal Palms Court. It's a part of Pelican Point 8th filing. It's 687 feet long. We've inspected it. It meets our standards. We would recommend that it be accepted.
Motion by Councilman Chris Lohr, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Discussion. Mr. Lambert.
Hey, Mr. Bob, we got a couple of notes on the bottom of the page for street signs. Have that been addressed before?
Ricky, have they addressed that? We have talked to them. I certainly would have no problem with that being a condition of the acceptance. We want the signs up there.
All right.
Councilman Johnson.
Mr. Bob, excuse me, in the past we've talked about significant amount of construction. Has this road been built out? Are we going to be looking at bringing a lot of big trucks on it, tear it up, and then we're going to be responsible for it, or what's the status on that?
This is 1 year.
The homes are already built, essentially. Okay, it is substantially completed, but not. There's still homes to be built, but it's not a totally new subdivision. They would have a lot of traffic on it at this time. It's going down.
Yeah, I don't know if we've seen anything yet, but have we come up with a policy as far as parish-wide, as far as percentage of completion before we accept these roads into the parish system yet? I know President Martinez they talked about that a while back.
We have not came up with a policy. We have discussed it, and I think we need more discussion on it. It has some pros and cons to the issue, and we need more discussion, though.
Okay, any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed.
Item number 11 is one that was, we'd asked GSA to do work on some time ago. It's a part of the intersection projects. I think we called them the 2004 intersection projects. In those, the state changed their standards for traffic analysis at intersections. And so we had proposed that at Germany and Airline Highway that we add a right turn lane from Germany Road to Airline going north. And they did a analysis and comprehensive traffic report. And it turns up that when they submitted that to the state, that the turn lane in that direction was not warranted. In fact, the state would be opposed to us putting that there. However, the opposite diagonal from Duplessis to Airline going south is warranted, although it was not part of our original contract. Have I got it backwards? I'm sorry. Jackie straightened me out. I had it exactly backwards. We had proposed from Duplessis to Airline going south, and that turned up not to be warranted. And Germany Road to Airline going north is warranted. And so our recommendation to you is that we switch those. We asked the contractor to switch those. Now, there is some additional cost as a result of that because the consultant has went through an elaborate traffic analysis and determined this process. So we got to, in effect, do it again on the other side if we do that. My guess is that we're talking maybe $20,000 to $25,000 in design cost.
Any discussion? Mr. Lambert?
Yeah, Mr. Bob, I think at our last meeting we discussed the 08 project and the funding was going to be low on it, and I'm just wondering where the budget for this increase is coming at, because we are talking about cutting some roads out in order to get,
Yeah.
the road money is getting slim, and
It is.
and I see here it says added to the intersection project. As the agenda reads, it doesn't say one that we already had. Germany Road at Airline to be added to the intersection project.
We probably mislabeled that.
Okay.
Actually, this is a substitution, eliminating one and adding
But we are
the
looking
other
at about a $25,000 increase.
Yeah, so we're looking $25,000 increase.
And that's mostly engineering?
Yes, it is all engineering. Pardon? Survey and engineering. Survey and engineering.
And is it budgeted, I guess is what I'm saying. With
Jackie tells me survey and engineering, that number I gave you might be a little bit low. But we'll come back to you with a task order that clearly sets out the amount that would be.
What about the budget, since our budget is slim?
The original construction dollars were in the project. And so
even with the increase?
I'm assuming that they can make a switch and be essentially a wash when we go to the other side.
Okay, even with the increase in engineering?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Councilman Lowe?
Mr. Turner, how did we mess it up? Like, did we not know the standards that the state had going into it, that it wasn't going to meet that criteria? And how do we prevent this from happening in the future?
The answer is yes, we messed up. Essentially, these projects were selected as a result of discussion with council and the identification of a need for a turning lane. I mean, you got to say, I think we need a turning lane, and then you start analyzing it, and you have to get into a fairly comprehensive traffic analysis, and that has to be submitted to the state, which they in turn look at it and come back with their recommendations. And so you do get into quite a bit of commitment once you've decided to look at an intersection. It's one option to ask them to look at a right turn lane, and another option, probably the better option, would be to ask the question of the engineers as to what do we need at this intersection. And we didn't ask that question. We asked, we want a right turn lane at this location.
Well, I guess to be more specific, I mean, we know the volume. I guess it didn't meet some kind of volume for the state. Okay. We know what that is. So can we not lay down like we do for speed bumps and stuff? We can't lay down like a sensor to determine the volume and know before we even ask the state and design it and all that cost associated with that on the front.
The problem that you have is that every intersection is slightly different. In other words, a particular volume for a right turn lane at one location may not be the solution and may not be compatible with the through traffic. You've got to deal with all the traffic at the intersection, all the turning movements, and evaluate it on that basis. But clearly what you're saying is that by doing some preliminary traffic analysis, we could definitely better the end product than we have in this case.
Mm-hmm. Councilman Clewine?
Yeah, Mr. Bob, is basically kind of recapping everything, is that there is some system. It's going to cost us something to find out information at some point.
That's correct.
No matter what.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And then our goal is just to get real good information that we can build on from that and decide whether the project's feasible, not feasible, meets the standard or whatever. But you do have to pay for some of this investigative work, right?
Yeah, generally I would call that preliminary engineering.
Yes.
In other words, we have to do a certain amount of work to determine what the project ought to be. Mm-hmm. And then once you've decided what the project is, then you need to go into a detailed design of that particular improvement. And that's essentially what we're asking at this point, is to, we now know from the preliminary design that one area is not warranted, but one of them is. Mm-hmm. And so we're asking for approval to move forward into the area of one that is warranted.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Johnson?
Mr. Bob, we've talked about this in the past as well. Have we looked at this as being more of a need of being a left turn lane as opposed to a right turn lane? And I know we have more traffic going north, not on a daily basis, but at least twice a week I go through an intersection that has a right turn lane. The traffic that's turning left actually blocks the traffic up to where the people wanting to go straight, or backs the traffic up long enough to where it blocks the right turn lane where traffic can't get to it. So I guess the question I'm asking, did we ask the right questions to find out what's going to be more effective at this intersection?
Well, I think in this particular case, the traffic analysis that was done was a comprehensive analysis, and we know now that this right turn lane from Germany to Airline North will add to the capacity of the intersection. And you're exactly right, is that many times the problem that we have is that either a left turning vehicle or a vehicle going straight through must hold up a significant number of vehicles that might want to turn right. So if you had a free right turn lane, a lane that they can get into, you will continue to move vehicles through the intersection. It'll become much more efficient. Clearly, I believe that our intersections in the parish are the areas that we need to focus on for making significant improvements in our traffic congestion in the parish. We can't widen all the roads and build the Joe Severio type roads all across the parish, but we can look at locations like this and make them as efficient as they can possibly be by adding turn lanes where it's appropriate. And so that's this type project I support for that reason.
Okay. Do you want to come back, Mr. Turner, with the recommendation, or you want us to go ahead and approve?
Well, I would recommend that we switch the project. I mean, what I'm doing is changing the project, the council project. The council project was a right turn lane from Duplessis to the airline going south, and we're asking for it to be allowed to be switched to the other side. And we will redirect the engineer to do that, and if that's your, if you approve.
Okay. That's motion by Councilman Randy Cluott.
Second.
Second by Mr. Councilman Chris Law. Any discussion? Mr. Lambert.
Yeah, Mr. Bob, you going to come back with the final cost on
Yes,
the
sir.
switch?
I will come back to you with a task order and an estimate of what the actual construction cost would be.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any opposition? None. Motion passed.
This next item is again a switch. What we're asking, or what we found out, is that in our 2007 RCO2 project, we had identified that Charleston Avenue needed to have work done on it. Unfortunately, what we didn't know was that it had severe drainage problems, and some of you may know this, but there used to be a racetrack in that general area, and as a part of the drainage system of that racetrack, there was a pipe that went under Charleston and ran along Charleston for a period of ways. Well, that culvert is badly deteriorated. It's a concrete culvert, and we've had to dig up and repair at least 3 locations where those joints are bad. It's right adjacent to, what's the name? Willow Lake subdivision. My concern is that this pipe is actually receiving seepage from that lake at this time, and so I feel very strongly we need to stop the road project, fix the drainage, and then come back with the road project. We are working with the East Ascension drainage to address the drainage problem, so I'm not asking to take Charleston off of the list for improvement, but what I am asking you to do is to shift it from a project that we currently have under contract to our in-house project, which we'll be asking you to approve a little later on. So what it does is merely delay the Charleston work until such time as we can complete the drainage.
Councilman Law.
Mr. Turner and your team, I appreciate you guys making this a priority, and I'll offer that as a motion.
Motion by Councilman Law, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Any objection? None. Motion passed. Discussion?
Yeah, just real quick, Mr. Bob. How's drainage? You working that out or what?
Absolutely. We're working very closely with drainage, and they're assisting us very well. I'm extremely pleased with the cooperation between Public Works and drainage. It was always good, but I think now it's even better.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, number 13.
Next item is we have 3 firms that we would like to add to the task order list. And I want to explain to you and the public that merely being on the task order list does not authorize them to do any work. It authorizes them to sign the master contract that we've had significant discussions about. And so they would not do any work until such time as we came back to you with a task order of particular work. But what this is a general approval for the master contract. J&J Engineers is a engineering company that we would like to have on the list, and we would make that recommendation that they be added.
Motion by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Kluwat. Any opposition?
Question.
Discussion,
Mr. Bob, this engineering firm offers something more specialty than any of the other ones. I know we have a list of task order contracts
yes,
out for
we have
engineering firms.
quite a few, and to be honest with you, what I really want to be talking to this firm about is possibly doing the design of the DPW building on the West Bank. They have a specialty in that area, and so that's one of the reasons that we'd like them on the list to further that discussion.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed.
The next firm is Burkhart Horn, engineers, architects, and planners. This is a big firm, nice firm, a lot of experience. They are interested in doing work in the parish. We see no reason that they should not be on the list, and we would recommend that they be added.
Make motion.
Motion by Councilman Randy Kluwat, second by Chris Lohr, Councilman Lohr. Any discussion? Mr. Kluwat.
Yeah, Mr. Bob, same question. What do these guys bring to the table?
Well, essentially, they are a diverse engineering company. I think it gives us some opportunity to have more firms that could be looked at in the project. I know that you're aware and that President Martinez is looking at a selection committee to select firms for various projects. Clearly, any firm that we look at for possibility of selection, they need to be on the list. So we need to add a number of firms that are capable of doing work in the parish, and then so that we could evaluate them for any particular job that may come up. I guess really what I'm saying is that we want a number of good firms available for us to choose from when we have a project.
Yes. And what we're looking at is, prior to selecting these firms through a selection committee to do the work, is we need to set up a criteria, parameters for being on our list.
Yes, sir.
And see what their specialty is, what their volume of business is, past history, and ability to work.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
So hope that you'd have a lot of input on that.
Yes, sir. We are confident that this company meets all the criteria that we would have like that.
Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed.
The third company is one that we really don't have any other company like this. It's a landscape architect. The Ricky Compton, the planning director, is getting more and more involved in landscape architectural features on a number of our subdivisions. I think it's appropriate that we add a landscape architect to our list so that if we get involved in a project that ought to have architectural landscaping features, that we would have a firm to solicit proposals from.
Motion by Councilman Benny Johnson.
Second.
Second by Councilman Chris Lohr. Any other discussion? Any objections? Motion passed.
This next item, I guess I need to start out by telling you that Westworthy Road is one that's been around for quite a while. We've licked at that project for a period of years, and we are moving forward, I think, in a very deliberate, careful manner. But at the same time, we still have right-of-way to acquire before we can put that road under contract. We have as you know, the road was closed, or is closed, due to the bridge being out. We have put the bridge under contract, but now we have to complete our promise of improving the road. And as a part of that, we need to continue to final the right-of-way acquisition process. SJB has a proposal for doing that right-of-way acquisition for $34,200. We would recommend that be approved. I think this involves eight different tracks.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Kluwat.
Question.
Discussion, Mr. Lambert.
Yeah, Mr. Bob, at our last Transportation Committee meeting, I'd asked you to come up with some numbers for us for the widening project on the roads, as far as what they're costing us. Joy Severio, Boudreaux Worthy, and
Yes, sir.
And I was wondering, since we're on this topic, did you come up with some numbers?
We're still working on that. I had prepared a spreadsheet and had given it to President Martinez. He had looked at it, and he'd asked Finance to look at it in more detail. So right now, Finance and I are trying to come together on what those costs are. The problem that we have is how charges were accounted for in the past, and when you go back to all the way to 2000 or 1999 and break those charges down, that's the problem that right now Finance and I are having on trying to determine those breakdowns. But we are working to give you that answer.
Appreciate it.
I just don't have it at this
Thank
time.
you, sir.
Any other discussion? None. Motion carries.
There's actually two parts of a right-of-way acquisition, and one of them is the administration, the title searches, and all of that, which is that $34,000 figure. In addition to that, in order to acquire right-of-way, we've got to survey the property, survey the right-of-way, prepare detailed right-of-way maps and descriptions, legal descriptions of the taking. So that involves significant amounts of surveys. So SJB has given us a proposal for the mapping and the surveying on those 8 tracks, and that involves, it's $43,200, and we would recommend that be approved.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Chris Lohr,
Second.
second by Councilman Johnson. Discussion.
Yes,
Mr. Kluwat.
Hey, Mr. Bob, this is the exact same 8 parcels we're talking about?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They are the same 8 parcels. All I can tell you is that it's extremely expensive to do public acquisition of right-of-way. The process that we have to go through is very detailed and very, very complicated. It involves title opinions, abstracts, appraisals, negotiations, the surveying of the property, the preparation of the documentation for actual sale agreements, the right-of-way maps, and when you really get that all summed up, it's coming to be about $6,000 or $7,000, $8,000 per tract to get to the point that you offer people so many dollars for their property. I don't know how to make that any less expensive than it is. I've looked at it hard. I've talked to a number of people, and I keep getting back to that same process, that this is the process that we have to go through.
Yeah, actually, it looks like it's coming to a little bit more than that.
Well, it is. It's
with management fees and everything,
it's
everything that goes into, including y'all salaries and all.
Yeah.
We're rolling up on $10,000 per parcel.
That's probably very close.
Before we actually get the land.
Yeah. I don't know how to make it any
Is this
less
type
than
of
that.
work, do we put out a RFQ, request for quote?
We have not done that in the past.
And
However,
and bid amongst the people that we have that are qualified to do work within our parish for us. That would be something.
I think, in my mind, that that's what we need are a number of people on the task order list that does this type work. We also need the completion of the selection committee that President Martinez has been talking about. I think when we have those in place and we have a number of firms to select from, we will get the best bargain that we can get. But even that being said, acquisition of right-of-way is going to be very costly.
Yeah, I understand that.
And but no, I agree with you. We have not
Yeah.
set those in place yet, but we're working in that direction.
Just due diligence, that's all.
Yes,
And
absolutely. I agree with you completely.
something to go on into the future. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed.
This next item is a proposal from Evans Graves Engineering to do a Stage 0 study for Gold Place Road at LA 431. Some of you may recall that this was a project that was added by the parish to the Transportation Improvement Program for the state, and it's on their construction schedule. Essentially, what the parish had agreed to and was responsible for was conducting some of the preliminary studies as to the improvement, what improvement ought to be done at this location. Then the state would then take this and go forward with the construction. So what this is the preparation of the Stage 0 study for $13,700. I will tell you that we did look at a number of different firms, and so this is the most economical firm, and we feel they're very capable of doing the work.
I make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Kluwat. Second by Councilman Johnson. Any discussion? Any other discussion, Mr. Kluwat?
Thank you, Mr. Bob. I know you looked at between 3 and 5 firms on this, and just your inquiries probably knocked this cost down by 35%, 40%.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Real
you.
due diligence there.
Thank you.
Any opposition? None. Motion passed.
This next item, I need to take a little bit of time to explain. It's basically a request for you to approve a change order on the Joe Severio project in the amount of $46,849.25. This change order came about as a result of our discovery of a significant error in the original survey for Joe Severio that was done basically in 2001. The surveyor at that time worked directly for the parish and delivered to the engineer information regarding elevations throughout the project. However, in one of those benchmarks, there was an error, there was a bust, and it was approximately 18 inches to 2 feet. The engineer proceeded to design the project not knowing that this error existed, and we went to contract with it, and the contractor proceeded to build the job according to the design. When we got to the point that we were trying to put a culvert across Joe Severio in the vicinity of LA 42, we realized that there was something seriously wrong. The elevations were not matching. We could not get the culvert to flow. We took shots up and down, and then when we got to checking, we realized that we had this error. The contractor had excavated by that time one side of the road significantly deeper, about 2 feet deeper than they should have to be designed properly. So we needed to correct that. The error was acknowledged by the surveyor, and he's working very diligently with us to resolve this. I will tell you that we're in agreement at this point that the parish would not have to pay this money, but that the surveyor would pay this. However, we need to change order the contract so that the contractor can make the corrections and proceed on with the work. In other words, the engineer's not at fault, the contractor is not at fault. The fault was from a surveyor that was hired by the parish. The surveyor worked for the parish at that time and made the error. And it was not discovered until after some construction work had been done. Now, the correction, what we've done is essentially you've got 1,000 feet or additional 5. In order to correct this, we feel the most economical and the best solution would be to put pipe in this deeper ditch and cover it over, which is, from the standpoint of the public, is a great thing. Where before they would have had a ditch, now they have would have an enclosed pipe. That's the most economical way for us to fix this, and the surveyor is going to stand good for this cost. Be glad to answer. The thing that I'm concerned about is that I don't want to get into a delay situation with the contractor. The contractor was not at fault, and so I don't want to slow the contractor down or to stop the contractor from working, because then I'll get into a claims for delay with a contractor, and I don't want to get into that situation. The engineer, the contractor, the parish staff, Jackie and I, and we all agree that this is the best solution to correct that problem and move forward.
Motion by Councilman Bennett Johnson.
Second.
Second by Councilman Chris Law. Discussion. Mr. Kluwat.
Yes, sir, Mr. Bob. Based on the surveyor's mistake, his bust on that shot, and the contractor actually bidding, looking at the work and bidding it, reviewing drawings. We have drawings that are turned over.
Yes.
At some point, there's a certain amount of responsibility, not legal, but there's a certain amount of professional responsibility of the contractor to review what he's going to build. I would like to stress that, okay?
And
not to hold blame.
Right. I absolutely agree with you. And actually, I have to say that, you know, at the time that we started to lay some pipe, we realized that it was wrong. And so we stopped. We did not continue the air at that point once it was discovered. However, we had excavated this one ditch too much, so we're going to have to place 500 feet of pipe or so in that ditch to correct that error, but we did not make other errors. Now, what we have done in order to prevent this particular situation from happening in the future, we're going to require that the contractor surveyor who slope stakes the job to check all benchmarks against each other, so that
one line on the bottom of the drawing, buddy.
That's right.
I've had to live by that for a long time.
That's right. Yeah. So, but we think we can prevent this from happening in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Glenn? Thank you.
I don't want to take anything away from Mr. Bob because he's handled it very well. Randy makes a good point that there are some responsibilities of the contractor, but the contractor uses the control information that we provide on our plans. In this particular case, there were 3 control monuments that were provided on that project. 2 of them in the beginning part of the project, if you're familiar with the Joseph Area Road project, from the Galvez School to about Beth Road. There's 2 monuments in there. They were correct. In the surveyor, when he went back and looked at his original field notes, for some reason, they made a field adjustment on the last control point that they set at Highway 42. And when they did the staking for the section between Beth Road and Highway 42, they used the control point at the LA 42 end of the project and not the first two monuments. We're not sure why that adjustment was made. He can't explain it, and we can't explain it. The other thing I want to mention, I know Mr. Bob, they met with, I think the contractor and Mr. Bob and Jackie met with Miss Manda, and I think she's out on maternity leave right now, and I guess she's working through the legal details of how to make all this right with I guess the parish's documentation and paperwork. So anyway, that's the best we can offer you at this point, and appreciate y'all taking action on it.
Appreciate that. Any other discussion? Any opposition? None. Motion passed.
This next item is a issuance of recommendation to issue a task order to GSA for the signalization at the intersection of 932 and 933, which is Joseph Ario and Galvez School area. If you will recall, some of you will recall, that we pulled the intersection out of the Joseph Ario project. We did that because we were in the process of designing the intersection, getting the state to approve the traffic analysis at the intersection. What I was concerned about is that would have delayed significantly the improvement of Joseph Ario Road itself. So I asked the council to pull the intersection out, have GSA to do a separate design for the intersection, and then at some point in time I hope to put the two back together again, where we would let the project for the intersection, and they would tie in at the same time that the improvement of Joseph Ario is completed. And so GSA had a task order to do that, and they submitted the traffic analysis, and the traffic analysis came back that a traffic signal is warranted at that location. So we have asked them we want you to design that traffic signal location, and they've agreed to do that for $17,960. We would recommend that be approved.
Question, Mr. Lambert?
Mr. Bob, was any of this brought to the state as far as any assistance on paying for some this intersection since it's a state highway?
Yeah, we have not asked the state to do that. We're asking the state for asking the state legislature to make a number of improvements to intersections in the parish, but this particular one we did not do that.
Okay.
Yeah, Glenn.
Helping Mr. Bob out tonight.
I appreciate that. I do.
Just to expand on a little bit of what Todd's asking for, the developer of
Keystone.
I'm sorry.
It is Keystone, yeah.
Which is just east of this intersection, paid to the parish $125,000 toward these intersection improvements, which were part of their agreement with a permit with the state of Louisiana. So the parish did receive $125,000 from the developers of Keystone toward these intersection improvements. They also made other intersections improvements as well. Todd, there were some signalization modifications at
44 and 933.
And 933. And also at Merritt Evans and Causey. So there were some other improvements. Besides the $125,000 that the developers paid toward this intersection, they made additional improvements on some other intersections, signalization improvements. So
thank you,
got your money's worth out of the developer.
Motion by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilman Kluwat. Any other discussion? Any opposition? None. Motion passed.
This next item probably will come as a surprise to you, but I'm asking for a change order to make a reduction in the contract of...
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Chris Lohr. Discussion, Mr. Kluwat.
Mr. Bob, where did the reduction come from?
Well, essentially, the majority of it came from a change in the design of the intersection of Plantation Boulevard. When we initiated this project, the Homeowners Association contacted us and wanted to do something special for their entrance, and I agreed to look at that, and we, with the understanding that the parish could only do so much, and if they wanted more than that, then they would have to pay that difference. Well, as it turned out, when we actually did the design, which was really great, and went to bids, they couldn't come up with the money that was necessary to make the improvements. And so, as a result, and with correspondence and communication with them, we went back to our normal standards. So as a result, we decreased the contract about $35,000 in that item alone. Other items was a change in the design on Alligator Bayou, no? Okay, the footings on the side of San Martin, we made the change on those, which made a reduction in the cost. So overall, it's a $57,000 reduction.
Thank you, sir.
All right, any other discussion? Any opposition? None, motion passed.
I guess I'm saving my good news near the end of the agenda, but this next item, item number 20, is a request for approval of a certificate of substantial completion for the 2006 road program. You might recall that this was the first in-house design that we had done. When Jackie came on board, she proceeded to do the 2006 design. We broke new ground for us through that process. We put it under contract. It came in actually slightly less than what we had estimated on the engineer's estimate. We put it under contract. We inspected this project with our staff. This was the first job that our staff did the inspection on. We had a couple of really tough areas. We were having a real time with Diversion Canal Road. It was basically falling apart on us as we were trying to get there to build it. And so thanks to the patience of the public, the diligence of the contractor, we had some really very good luck throughout this contract. The estimated, or the completion date in the contract was May the 25th of this year. We have beat that, and not only have we beat that, but actually our contract is going to come in under estimate when we get to that point. So this is good news. Very proud of Jackie for the work that she has done, and the staff and the inspection staff. We now have certified inspectors. We're moving forward, and I feel real good about it, where we're at. Be glad to answer any questions.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Bennett Johnson, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Good job.
Great job. Very good.
Thank you.
Councilman Lloyd, you had anything else?
The item number 21.
So fast.
Walker Street is a fairly short street in Sorrento that has been torn up for quite some time. This was a street that was utilized by the parish to have access to the levees. We constructed the levees back then. We continue to use this street for access to the levees. The mayor, and we had it in the 2007 in-house project, which we're, in this next item, we're going to ask you for approval to take bids on. However, we see an opportunity to move this particular project forward a little faster. We've talked with drainage, and Bill Rue is going to go to the drainage board and ask that the drainage board fund this improvement of Walker Street of $15,000. What we would like to do is to move it from the in-house project to a current project that we have under contract, which is the 2007 RCO2. And we feel like we can get Walker Street completed probably 3, maybe 4 months earlier than if we left it in the in-house project. So we would recommend and ask you to move the project from the in-house to the 2007 RCO2 project.
Motion by Councilman Bennett Johnson.
Second.
Second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Discussion? None. Any opposition? Motion passed.
This last item, as I told you, again, I think good news. Jackie has now completed the 2007 in-house projects. We're ready to go to bid on that. It's a lengthy process that we have to go through, advertisements and such as that. So we won't be, I want to make sure the public understands, we won't be turning dirt on this particular project in the next month or so, but we are heading to the point where we can put that under contract. We estimate that it's a $3 million project, which is what we originally budgeted for. Jackie's design is still in the range of $3 million, and we would ask that your approval for approval of plans and authorization to take bids.
Appreciate it. Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Bennett Johnson. Any discussion? Any opposition? None. Motion passed.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned by Councilman Law, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Thank you. Have a good night.